Are you considering buying the MatchX Neo miner? Or maybe you looked into MatchX in the past and dismissed them because of their strange tokenomics? Or maybe you've never heard of them and you want to see what it's all about? Well, if so, you're in the right place. This video, we're going to be looking at the MatchX Neo miner, the MXC ecosystem as a whole, and helping you to assess whether or not it's a project that you might want to get into. Hey guys, I'm Leo and you're back with Future Networks DePIN Series, where we're looking at DePIN projects, breaking them down for you, assessing them, and helping you to decide which projects you might want to get involved in 2023 in this very fast growing sector of the crypto economy. And today we're looking at the MatchX Neo miner, or more specifically, the MXC Foundation and MatchX as a company, because I think the company behind these miners are the most relevant things to be looking at. So a quick disclaimer, why are we starting this DePIN series with the MatchX Neo miner? Well, MatchX sent me this miner for free, so I haven't paid for this with my personal funds. The company Future Networks has not paid for this, it was sent for free. However, we haven't been paid to make this video, and I'm going to be completely unbiased in this review today. And the second disclaimer, all of the videos that I make and as part of this DePIN series, they are made for informational purposes only. They're not to be taken as financial advice. Please don't go out and buy a load of hardware just because you see it on this channel. Crypto is risky, DePIN is risky. You can lose what you put in. Right, so disclaimer's over. We can get into the video. So MatchX and the Neo miner. So for those of you who are purely interested in how much the miner is earning and you don't really care whether it's a sustainable project, etc., you can jump straight to the bit about the earnings. Have a look in the timestamps in the description, it will be there. I've only had it online for a few days, so I've only got a couple of day earnings. I'm going to do another update after a couple of weeks and really break down to you the earnings kind of day by day, week by week, and then how they're affected by cashing out, because that's a really important part as well. So I'm not going to lie, I should probably lay my cards completely on the table. I was not a fan of MatchX in the slightest before I made this video and before I started playing around with the Neo miner and doing research into the long-term vision of the company. I came across them a few years ago and there was a lot of red flags to me that I'll go through in a minute. But yeah, I'm absolutely shocked with how I've done a bit of a 180 and how impressed I am with their long-term vision and the tech that they're building. Again, I have not been paid to say this. This is my completely unbiased opinion, and there definitely are still some red flags. So I'm going to go through all the pros and all the cons of the company in this video. I just wanted to sort of lay that out there as a bit of an introduction. So what is the Neo? What does it do? And how does it relate to the rest of the MXC ecosystem? Let's have a look. So it probably makes sense to start off by explaining why I wasn't so keen on MatchX before. They've been around for about 5 years. I first heard about them a couple of years back when I was deploying Helium hotspots. I was into Helium quite early, and they started off with the same kind of product as Helium, which is basically a mesh network of radio devices or units which emit long-range radio signals. It forms a mesh network, and then you can transfer data over that network. Typically, IoT devices transfer data over that network. So I heard about them because they're a competitor to Helium, and I was put off instantly by the fact that they were always advertising earn X amount of dollars per day. Helium never promised a fixed amount of earnings and certainly didn't promise fixed dollar earnings. And if you imagine, right, if you want to build a network of, let's say, 1 million different hotspots and you're promising out $10 a day, I think they were promising something around that. That's $10 million a day that you have to pay out. It's completely unsustainable. It doesn't make any sense to promise that. You're just setting yourself up for failure, basically. And how did they maintain those earnings? So let's say the value of the token goes down. In order to keep up the earnings at that $10 level or whatever it was before, don't hold me to $10, it was something around that, they would just issue more and more tokens. So let's say one day you get 100 tokens a day. The price of the token goes down. So the next day they would give you, I don't know, let's say 120 tokens to make it up to that $10 level. So they're just issuing. And we all know what happens when you print money. The value of that money goes down. Look no further than Terra Luna. That's pretty much what happened. They issued so many tokens that the value just went to zero. And then the other thing is you're penalized for cashing out. So let's say you buy this device, you earn a load of tokens and you want to cash those tokens out into your bank account. You're allowed to, but then you will start earning less because of the fact that you cashed out. I mean, imagine a world where Bitcoin miners are penalized for cashing out their Bitcoin. They just wouldn't do it anymore. It doesn't really make any sense. So I just thought from day one it was a bit weird from a tokenomics perspective. Didn't make any sense to me why they would approach the project like that. And then also I think their previous miner, the M2, it cost and still costs in the range of like 2,700 euros. So just way out of my budget as well. I didn't really want to spend that much money on a miner. But then they reached out to me to have a look at their Neo miner. And again, I was put off by the wording they used in the email. They said you can mine $12 a day by only using 1 watt of electricity. Again, focusing on $12 per day, it's just weird. I don't like that marketing. It seems scammy. It seems unsustainable. I didn't like it really. So I was, again, a little bit kind of hesitant going into it. And then if you look at the website, I think they've changed it the last few days, actually. It seems better than it was before. But there was certainly a lot of kind of sell. We're trying to sell you a device. And if you look at their app, it's always trying to make you buy NFTs and buy miners and stuff. So I wasn't a huge fan of that as well. Get involved. I'm sure this is going to say, okay, 404 not found. There's a lot of these on the website as well. So I was ready to dismiss the project as a bit of a jump on the buzzword of the moment, money grab. If you look at their website, there's a lot of stuff about the metaverse, NFTs, all that kind of stuff. And it just seemed like they're jumping on the buzzwords at the minute, and none of it really made any sense of how it tied into the ecosystem. However, as I said, now I've done some digging and actually understand what their long-term vision is. There is a lot to be admired, and that's what I'm going to try and break down in this video and do the marketing team of the MXC Foundation's job for them, since they seem unable to do it themselves. So the initial idea of the ecosystem, as I said before, was to create this long-range wireless radio network to transfer data over, and that's what the rest of the ecosystem is being built on top of. So let me sort of explain what I mean by this. The core of MatchX is this radio network. So the idea is you get your miner, either the M2, which is the past one, or the Neo, the new one that I've got. You put it up in your house, and that sends out a long-range radio signal. And I say long-range, it can be literally up to sort of 50, 100 kilometers that distance can travel. And then if other people in your neighborhood or area start doing the same thing, it forms a mesh network that's overlapping. And the idea is you get it to cover your entire city, your town, or ideally your entire country, and then even the entire globe. So that's the idea behind it. And then you use it to transfer data. So it might be, for example, a little sensor that you stick on a tree saying this is the air temperature at this specific time. The sensor sends off a radio signal as well, which is then picked up by the closest miner and then relayed back so that whoever put the sensor out can see what the temperature is. Or, for example, you might put a collar tracker on your dog so that if it escapes, it can send GPS coordinations or basically location coordinations so that you can see, maybe even on an app that the sensor developer developed, you can see where your dog is in real time. So these are just a couple of examples of what it might be used for. And then this is exactly what the Helium network did, except the Helium network was only really making any money by charging companies for that data transfer. So from the information getting from the dog collar sensor to the Helium network, that's where they were making money. They were charging per, I don't know, like byte or whatever it is, megabit of data transferred. Whereas MatchX have realized that that's not actually a sustainable way to make revenues in the long run, because you need so much data transfer because the data credits are so cheap that you needed to introduce other ways of making revenues. And that's really where I've been most impressed with the MatchX project. So what MatchX have done is built the MXProtocol. So basically all of that data we just discussed from sensor picked up by the miner is then fed back into what's called the MXProtocol. So what is the MXProtocol and why is it cool? So in its most basic form, the MXProtocol is a blockchain. It's there to send data to store that data, and then to serve that data. So to go one step deeper, it is an IoT-focused blockchain. So a place for data from LPWAN IoT sensors to be sent to and stored, forming what they're calling the IoT data economy. We'll come on to that in a second. This is, in my opinion, the coolest part of the project. If you don't know what LPWAN means, don't worry about it. It's basically the type of radio signal that the sensors need to be compatible with in order to work. But it basically means that DePIN projects and DePIN builders can very quickly build and deploy on this blockchain, on the MXProtocol. So they can register their sensors on the blockchain as an NFT, which ties into what I think the MXC Foundation is calling the metaverse. So you take your physical device and you can digitize it, so you get a digital version of the real world. You can transfer data over the network, the radio network, to the MXProtocol very quickly and easily. And then all that data is stored and accessible on the blockchain, on the MXProtocol blockchain. So basically it means that DePIN projects don't have to worry about creating their own blockchain. Only they can basically store and serve their data on this blockchain very quickly and easily. So think kind of peak, think Eclipse, IoTeX in that sense, it's kind of similar to these other projects. So the data, if they want it to be, can be shared with or sold to other apps or other companies on chain. And this is also one of the coolest parts of it, right? This is what they mean by the IoT data economy. So let's say that I'm deploying air humidity sensors, right? And I'm using the MXProtocol as a means to kind of build on top of. If I want to, I can opt into sharing all the data that my IoT devices, aka my air pressure sensors, are gathering, and I can choose to sell that data or make it available for purchase to other companies. For example, maybe a weather forecaster that would find that data very useful. So you might have heard of WeatherXM. Maybe they don't have a load of stations in one particular area, and they would find it useful to take the air pressure or air humidity, whatever it is, data that we're providing, and factor that into their forecasts. I can sell that data to them. So it's all about data monetization too, which is obviously a massive theme at the moment. I think it's a really cool way to try and make a little bit more revenue. So that's forming the data marketplace, or this IoT data economy. As I said, it's kind of like IoTex or Eclipse or Peak, if you know about those companies in this sense. And what this basically means is it's enabling them to have a software as a service business model. So any companies who are making LPWAN compatible sensors, or the apps to go along with them, or both, they can build on the MX protocol for instant integration with this MXC ecosystem, with the IoT data economy, giving them revenue generation sides apart from just the data transfer kind of model that Helium was going down. And then finally, it's really cool because it's an L3 built on Arbitrum. When you're seeing them writing about ZK EVM everywhere, this is what they mean. If you don't know what an Arbitrum is, or an L3 or a ZK EVM, I won't go into too much, but it kind of is a big deal. In my opinion, it's awesome. It means that you're benefiting, or companies are benefiting from the security and decentralization as Ethereum as an L1 blockchain, which is the best blockchain in my opinion. I'm a massive Ethereum maxi. Everyone knows Bitcoin, and pretty much everyone knows Ethereum. It's like the number two crypto coin out there, and the Ethereum ecosystem is incredible. So yeah, basically you're benefiting from decentralization and security of Ethereum, but also benefiting from the low transaction costs and high scalability of Arbitrum, which is a ZK EVM. Basically, it's called zero knowledge EVM, but it means it's compatible with the Ethereum virtual machine. So long story short, it's a very secure, decentralized blockchain that can also handle a lot of transactions at one point for a very, very low cost. And the other great thing about having an L3 built on Arbitrum, and Arbitrum is an awesome system, ecosystem, is that you can use your own coin as the gas. So basically, all the transactions that are done on this MX protocol, they will be paid for in the MXC coin, which adds utility to the token. So it means there's less chance of the token just crashing down to zero in the long run, which is great. And they also have a lot more stuff in the works, like this thing that they are calling ISO. I have no idea why they're calling it ISO. It stands for Initial Sensor Offering. What it basically boils down to is a launch pad. So they will get some money to incubate projects. For example, I don't know, if I want to deploy a load of air humidity sensors and make a business out of that and make an app to track it and then sell it to a load of other people. And if I want to deploy that on the MX protocol, they will give me some funding to kickstart that business. So it's kind of like a traditional launch pad in that sense, but they're calling it ISO. Initial Sensor Offering, it's a stupid name in my opinion. Again, it kind of like, it's one of these buzzwords, ICO. Maybe that's what they were going for, like after the ICO mania of the past. I'm not entirely sure, I don't know. And then a load of other stuff that isn't yet public, I've sort of seen a sneak peek of, which I also think is pretty cool and pretty impressive. So I know I've had a lot of negative stuff to say as well, but there is definitely a lot of positivity to this project, a lot of really, really cool things in the works that I'm excited to see develop further. So we know what it is. Should I buy a miner? You might be asking yourself. Well, let's have a look at our assessment criteria. So in terms of revenue generation, we know that they have this software as a service business model, or blockchain as a service even, which I like. I don't really know how much they're going to be charging for that, so definitely a follow-up question I'll have for them. And then the data economy, I'm imagining that they would be looking into taking at least some kind of percentage on the data that's sold. Again, so I need to actually catch up with the team and ask a little bit more about that, but it seems to have a decent long-term vision at least. So about the team, when I asked them about the team, they said that they were 100 strong and that 60 of them were developers, which makes sense. They have developed a lot of really cool stuff and their app is good, it works, their hardware works, so I can believe that. And then they said they had 40 marketers, which really confused me. I've been banging on about how bad their marketing team is, and I really struggle to believe there's 40 people dedicated purely to marketing. If it's marketing the sales of the hardware only, then maybe I can believe that because it's been quite aggressive. But in terms of like working on the website, the documentation, all that kind of stuff, I find that a bit odd, but you know, it is what it is. 100 people in the team strong. They do have 17.5 million in the bank, so I can believe that the team is that big. That's what they kind of initially raised a few years ago. So they've definitely got the budget, so there is some credibility there as well. But marketing team, like if you're watching this video, MatchX marketing team, please start producing some stuff that makes sense rather than just pages and pages of jargon that is basically nonsensical. And I've been speaking to a few of the core team members on Discord. They've got an active Discord channel, and the core team members were super responsive, which shouldn't be underestimated as well. They were really nice. They answered all my questions. So team, I've been really impressed with my interaction with them so far. On the tokenomics front, I was confused. I mean, I found this document here. It says how the token was allocated, you know, to the team, to the investors, etc. And then you scroll down a bit, and it says how 100% allocation is to miners. I'm not really sure how that's possible if it's already been allocated to investors and that. And then you scroll down to the bottom, there's just a load of false information about helium as well. Like, again, it's just poor marketing in my opinion. So I can't really comment on the tokenomics, and there's a broken link, as we saw earlier, to the white paper. So definitely lacking in documentation and information in that perspective. Right, so let's have a look at the big question, earnings. So how much am I earning per day, how much the device cost, and therefore what is the time to ROI on the unit? So the device itself is just under 600 euros. With shipping at $40, it comes in at 635 euros. Which is around $700. Bear in mind, I've only had it live for 2 days, as I said, so it's not a lot of days to go off, but the first 2 days have been as follows. So day one, 24-hour earnings were 227.83 MXC, which at the current price of $0.0131 is $2.98. It's not the $12 that they advertise, but it's not terrible. Day two, total of 460.87 MXC. So that was in total. So I earned 223 on that second day, a little bit more than day one, which is about $3.05. I actually measured this one about half an hour after the first day, so maybe it was identical. So I guess you can expect about $3 per day. So at this rate, times ROI is as follows. The device costs $700. You're making $3 a day, which is about $91.5 a month, which means 7.7 months is the time to ROI. So the time risk here is about 8 months to ROI, and then obviously in the crypto space, a lot can change in 8 months. Some other pros of the project: I've been begging for multi-coin mining from Helium hotspots for a long time. Obviously the value of the HNT coin has gone down, and you need to keep miners happy in order to have a network, because if there's no people sustaining the network with their miners, then you don't have a network, and then you've got nothing. So I think that the multi-coin approach is a really good one. Just gives people a way to kind of use their existing hotspots for a little bit of extra income. So I like how the MatchX and MXC kind of ecosystem is, say, you know, you can mine Bitcoin with these miners, you can mine Dogecoin with the Neo, it also mines Dogecoin. So in theory, I think that's a good thing. In practice, I'm not really sure how these low power devices can mine Bitcoin or Dogecoin, because obviously they take really high spec hardware. So my suspicion is maybe the foundation has just bought a load of Bitcoin, and then if you qualify for that criteria, you will be fed a little bit of the treasury's Bitcoin all the time, so you're not really mining it in the traditional sense. So there's a few red flags there as well. However, it's a nice touch to be able to mine 2 coins or 3 coins with one device. That's fine. I guess the other real question you have to ask yourself is there a real market for this kind of blockchain as a service in the IoT space? I mean, there's other companies that I mentioned before, Peak, IoTex and Eclipse, that are doing very similar things, offering a platform for DePIN projects to build off. So that would suggest that there is a market there, but you definitely have to do a little bit more of your own research to really see the size of that potential market and try and put a number on it. It's very difficult because we're in early stages. I'd also have to speak to some DePIN projects that we're building, or IoT projects building at the moment, to find out from a developer's perspective how attractive the MXProtocol is to build on top of. I'm not a developer, I'm not a builder, so I would have to understand what sets MXProtocol apart from the alternatives, the ones I mentioned like Peak, IoTex, etc., and whether or not there's sufficient kind of USPs about the MXProtocol to build on it rather than these other platforms available. So you probably realized by now I'm not a massive fan of the MXC marketing team. They're probably going to hate me by the end of this video, so sorry. But another sort of con for me is If I put myself in the shoes of a builder, if I'm a DePIN project and I want to deploy, would I use the MXProtocol and the MXC ecosystem as opposed to, for example, using the Helium ecosystem, which is a lot more widespread and robust, particularly if I was doing something like, I don't know, asset tracking for assets that are moving, like a logistics firm. The Helium network is just far more widespread, and I'm not sure whether or not the MXC or the MatchX network can keep up and compete with the sheer size and volume of the million hotspots that Helium has deployed. I'm sure MatchX will disagree with me, but that's a definite kind of doubt in my mind. So in conclusion, and by the way, if you made it this far through the video, thank you very much for your attention. I know it's been a long one. I just did a lot of research for it, so I wanted to share it with you. But yeah, to summarize, definitely some red flags there to me. I'm skeptical of a 40-strong marketing team's ability to put out content that makes any sense. I'm skeptical as to MatchX's ability to catch up with the sheer size and volume of the Helium network, whether they will get that ubiquitous coverage that they want. I'm sure they have a different opinion, but that's still a little bit of a red flag to me. However, I'm definitely not dismissing it anymore. I'm super interested to see what they can build, whether they can achieve this vision they have, because it is an awesome vision and they're building some awesome tech as well. And I'm always open to be proved wrong about the things that I've raised as red flags. So I'm looking forward to getting somebody from the MXC team onto this show to answer my unanswered questions and perhaps to educate me as to why I'm wrong on some of the red flags that I've raised. That's it for the video today, guys. Thanks a lot again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.